Keir Starmer came into office promising strength, control, and competence. He told Britain he would get a grip on illegal migration. Where others had failed, he would succeed. But a year into this Labour government, the crisis has only deepened. And now, under mounting pressure, Starr has been forced into a humiliating klimon on one of the defining issues of our time. Let's break it down. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. We can reveal the government is preparing plans to move illegal migrants out of taxpayer-funded hotels and into army barracks on disused military bases. Yes, after years of attacking similar conservative policies as inhumane and unworkable, Labour is about to embrace the very measures it once ridiculed. A U-turn so sharp it exposes just how desperate Starmer has become to show he's doing anything about Britain's broken borders. The new Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is expected to front the announcement in the coming days. But make no mistake, this isn't her idea. This is Starmer bowing to reality, retreating from rhetoric and copying the Conservatives he used to condemn. This shift comes off the back of a bruising legal battle. Recently, the Home Office overturned a High Court injunction that had stopped the Bell Hotel in Epping from housing migrants. The council tried to take the case to the Supreme Court, but their appeal was rejected with no reasons given. In court, Home Office lawyers argued that the rights of asylum seekers outweighed the rights of local councils. That message landed badly in communities, fueling the anger of people already fed up with seeing hotels commandeered and their concerns ignored. And here's the irony. Even as Labour lawyers made their argument in court, ministers were quietly planning their U-turn behind the scenes. At the same time, reports suggest Britain is close to striking a one-out migrant deal with Germany following a similar agreement with France just weeks earlier. And to project urgency, Starmer has already ripped through the Home Office ranks, axing the border security minister and reshuffling junior roles to make way for his new agenda. But for all that noise, the numbers tell the real story. On Shabana Mahmood's very first day as Home Secretary, more than 1,096 migrants crossed the Channel. That's the backdrop to this U-turn. Failure on the water, failure in the courts, failure to convince the public that this government has any grip at all. What makes this turnaround even more remarkable is Labour's own record of condemnation. Back in 2023, Yet Cooper, then Shadow Home Secretary, called Conservative plans to house migrants in military bases an admission of failure. Today, Labour is rolling out the very same policy. 2 bases are already in use. Napier Barracks in Kent and MDP Wethersfield in Essex. Both set up by the Tories and both slammed by Labour at the time. Now Starmer's government plans to expand that model. So let's be clear, the policy Labour once used as a stick to beat the Conservatives with is now their flagship plan. And looming over all of this is Nigel Farage and Reform UK. Just last month, Farage unveiled his mass deportation strategy, pledging to house migrants and disused RAF bases before removal. Even then, Labour figures mocked it. Some even claimed it wasn't tough enough. Farage went further, calling for Britain to leave the European Convention on Human Rights and replace it with a British Bill of Rights. Mahmood in her new role will now lead a review into how foreign criminals exploit the ECR to block deportations. Once again, reform raises the bar and Labour scrambles to follow. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a Labour government forced into a stunning U-turn. It leaves us with a Prime Minister who once mocked military bases now preparing to use them. And it leaves us with the clearest admission yet that Labour has no fresh ideas. Only recycle Conservative failures. Keir Starmer promised strength. He promised competence. But the reality is this. He's been in government long enough now to be judged on results. And on illegal migration, the boats keep coming. The crisis keeps growing. And the public's patience is wearing thin. For Starr, this isn't just a policy shift. It's a defeat and one that exposes just how little grip he really has. In other news, Sarah Pochin has leapt to Nigel Farage's defense as she doubled down on his 2-week plan to stop the small boats. Speaking to the media at the party's conference, the Reform UK MP declared that although the plan is radical, they cannot solve the problem of the migration crisis without it. Detailing his plans further, Mr. Farage told the media that given the mood of the nation, the legislation needs to go through as quickly as it's possible. He added, "It will take 2 weeks once we get the legislation in place. It will take 2 weeks to stop the boats." Quizzed by political correspondent Catherine Fair on the plans, Ms. Pulchin told the media, "I think what Nigel is meaning is that Reform is the only party that is saying it will leave the ECR and it will repeal the Human Rights Bill. And with those two factors alone, we are then in a position to start to send all illegal asylum seekers, illegal migrants back to where they came from." Criticizing the left-wing lawyers dealing with the appeal system for asylum seekers in Britain, the Reform MP added, "What we have at the moment is a whole industry of left-wing lawyers making a fortune out of the endless appeal that a legal migrant can do. And what we need to do is take the legislation away, and it is a dramatic policy. It is a radical extreme policy, but we have to do it." Stressing that the migrant crisis cannot be solved without such radical action by Reform. Ms. Pulchin explained, "We will create a British Bill of Rights to replace the Human Rights Bill. But unless we take this radical action, then we cannot solve this problem. And the fact is the Labour government have said very clearly they will never leave the ECR. Kemi Badenoch said they will leave the ECR, but I can tell you Nain Dorrier said from within the Conservative Party, there is no will to leave the ECR, otherwise they would have done it. They had 14 years to do it." Deeming the legislation unfit for purpose, she stated, "It's not fit for purpose anymore, and we need to redo that sort of legislation because that's what's crippling and effectively bankrupting this country." Quizzed by Catherine on Mr. Farage's changing stance on whether women and children will also be deported from Britain if they enter illegally, Ms. Pullen said that the majority of illegal migrants are fighting-age men. Ms. Chin told the media, "When it comes to women and girls being deported, we know that the fact is out of the 70 to 80 people on these not small boats. We must stop calling the small boats. The majority, 99%, are young men. And you may get the odd woman and the odd child on that boat, and half the time I think it's just for the BBC to take a picture, but the fact is the overwhelming majority are young fighting men. That's what we need to deal with." Hailing the hard work of Reform UK and their policy, Ms. Pulchin concluded, "As a small party, we are building. We have a team that is creating the infrastructure to meet the demand for reform, but we're growing so fast, and what we need to do now is get all of these policies in place, but it's happening and people are excited about it." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below.